I'm Lukas Raymond, and this is my Wwise sound design and implementation demo reel using the Unity 3D game kit, aka the Explorer. This game features our protagonist, Ellen, who's landed on a strange alien planet and needs to fight for survival. The art style is very cool, as you can see, and there's some neat enemies she's gonna do battle with. All the sounds in this video were created by me through a combination of original recordings, library sounds, synthesizers, and of course, a ton of plugins. I started by profiling the gameplay in Wwise to create an asset list to keep me organized during the project. The first thing we need to do is make an immersive and moody ambience for our alien planet. I knew I was going to need a lot of otherworldly animal noises to make this work, so I started by collecting some of the more interesting earthly animal sounds I could find. And got to work. I used a lot of pitch shifting and disperser to make these sounds, but honestly a lot of them were already so weird and exotic I didn't really need to do much. I added looping beds of crickets and cicadas to fill the air. To add even more mood to our alien landscape, I made some musical drones by quantizing the animal calls to a B minor scale with autotune, and then bouncing them into an extreme time-stretching algorithm called Paul Stretch. This made some eerie pads that I could randomly trigger in Wwise while being sure that they'll always be harmonizing with each other musically. After importing all the assets into Wwise, I put all the animal sounds into 3 identical containers that randomly trigger different sounds alternated with randomized gaps of silence. I also applied randomized placement in the stereo field, randomized low passing, and an aux send with a convolved forest reverb to create a big space. The musical drones are blended 2 at a time with a randomly generated playlist so you never hear the same drone twice. I also added procedurally generated wind noise with the SoundSeed wind plugin. Let's listen to the final product. If we want our hero to travel through our new environment, she'll need to use her feet. I recorded footstep assets using a homemade Foley pit. I recorded a dirt and grass surface, a stone surface, and a goopy mud sweetener for running through puddles. 8 footstep variations for each surface type were put in random containers with 2 separate subcontainers for heel and toe strikes. Randomly combining these heel and toe strikes in sequence allowed for more footstep variation than using one continuous sample for both heel and toe. Now that we've set the scene and we can run around, we have to give our hero something to fight with. The magical alien staff. This was a pretty simple sound. I recorded myself swinging around this plastic wand to get the classic whip sound. Then I layered it with some library whooshes for mid-frequency energy. And then I added some ring-modulated wind chimes and metal resonances to give it that magical flair. I exported 8 variations of each layer and randomly combined them using a blend container in Wwise, which leads to a grand total of 512 variations of the blended sound. Also, when Ellen does an attack combo, the whoosh layer gradually increases in volume via RTPC to give a feeling of increasing the intensity of the attack. Of course, we also need to give our hero a voice, so I enlisted my lovely wife to channel her inner martial artist to provide some voice assets. Now that we have our weapons sorted out, we need some bad guys. The 2 main enemies on this planet are the Chompers and the boss robot. For these little guys, I recorded myself making some weird growling noises that I processed with pitch shifting and distortion. I put these in 2 separate random containers in Wwise and blended 2 of them together for extra thickness. The jaw snapping sound is a blend container with some chomping noises, a crumpling paper sound, and the classic slapstick. When you hit these poor guys with your staff, I wanted to make sure there's a satisfying whack to make you feel good about yourself. I recorded layers of thump, bone cracking, gore, and a metal transient. I exported several variations of each and randomly blended these 4 layers in Wwise to create 300 unique impact variations. I sidechained the staff swinging sounds to duck out when you successfully hit something, so you get an extra satisfying and clean impact. The boss robot needed a lot of assets to bring to life, including footsteps, creaks and clanks, impacts, 3 different attack types, a voice,
Intruder detected.
and a death sequence. Turns out, my neighbor's trash is a great source of raw material for these designs. The robot's footsteps are composed of creaks, servo motor sounds, exhaust pressure sounds, and foot impacts. These were, again, exported in layers of boom, crunch, exhaust, mechanicals, and sub-bass, which were blended in random containers in Wwise. I was able to achieve 256 footstep variations with this method. I also used blended and randomized layers for the impacts when you hit the robot, and for the servo motors that drive the legs. The robot's many different attack sounds were made with a combination of library sounds and synthesizers. The robot's voice was created using a speech synthesizer processed with an impulse response from a tin can.
Intruder detected. Scanning.
The last thing I needed was a dramatic entrance for the boss fight. I designed this huge stone door sound by using this piece of broken curb I found by the side of the road, plastic bag, a bike, a bunch of library sounds, and a lot of processing. I made this cinematic horn stab using contact and some tasty distortion and reverb. That pretty much covers it. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. If you want to see the full boss fight from start to finish, check out the video in the description.